all my life. Been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life I've been grinding all my life. Look, all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice.
Hey, peace. It's Brother John again on Mr. G's Hard Truth. And as promised, I have Aniyah back for part two to talk about Gen Z. Aniyah, how you doing today?
I'm brilliant. It's been a great day. How are you?
Great. I like that. Saying you're brilliant. I like that. So back on the topic, a lot of people had asked the question about relationships in Gen Z. You know, their personal relationships and finding significant others, and
Yeah.
how do they relate to the different or other generations?
Oh, well, definitely. There are just a bunch of differences. But what I say is social media has definitely played an effect on how we interact. I think now our generation is way more disconnected than it has ever been before.
Mm,
There's no connection. It's no person to person. We have these perceptions of people that are just not real. Not just the internet, but there's also other factors like our society, what's the agenda being pushed right now, political, economic. It goes deep. But what I would say is because of the advancement of technology and social media, I would say that mental health has been at an all-time low. So that
mm.
also plays a part, yes.
Okay, so give me one example of how things are viewed from the perspective. You said there's, you know, many views that's been misconstrued about how the world works and operates, especially by Gen Z. Can you give me one example?
Oh yeah, well, what I would say is is always put underneath this microscope. We are taught that we should be able to do things like move out when we're 18, acquire a house, just do it the traditional way, but it's just not how it used to be. Where our society is heading towards a depression, a
Mm,
recession in a way, and things are just so much differently how it used to been at least. I would say probably Gen X and the generation beforehand views Gen Z and millennials as lazy, lacking their accomplishments, which is not the case. We're just put under different stresses than our prior generation. So because of that, I would say that although it might seem like we have more opportunities, more advancements, it is just as bleak as it was decades ago. And that's the disconnect. We're put underneath a sort of a light perception that we can't quite meet how our parents or their parents used to be. So there's always that comparison. And that
mm.
has us in a bad light, a very, very down light.
Okay, and since we're on this topic, let's talk about wages and salaries and the Gen Z population. Do you find that those salaries and the wages are unrealistic in the times of being able to survive or take care of your responsibilities as the elders would like to see you take care of them?
Most definitely, times have changed. It's just so much more expensive. I just don't think people quite understand, especially other generations that came before us, because it's just simple. Like the dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to. And that has played such a significant role in how we interact with each other on so many planes. And I would just say, when it comes down to finances and the economy, these jobs, I mean, I live in the red belt. So, especially here in the South, these jobs just, they're not making a living wage. It's just been normalized that we need to pick up another job. We need to have a part-time job.
Mm,
That has just been so normalized to the point that um, it's just everybody is expected to have at least multiple forms of income. And that stresses people so much because you just simply can't afford an apartment and bills or inconveniences. You have more and more people have to stay in a family household than what they want to do and accomplish. It's so much more easier back then than it is now.
Interesting, and that's a mind blowing reality. Because it puts you guys at a disadvantage of being able to acquire what the status quo is deemed as success, right? So you can go to school, accomplish those goals. You can go get a decent job, take care of your health, try to eat properly, and that still doesn't qualify you to be able to live on your own. Take care of all your responsibilities as an individual, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you need to be able to rely on someone else,
Mhm.
just to maintain a livelihood. And then after working, either two shifts or two jobs, right? Now you're tired, and there's a detachment in your social connectedness
Yeah.
because, hey, who has time for that, right? I
Right.
got to go get this money so I could get pay for this phone, get back on this technology,
Yeah.
right? Pro- yeah, I see the hamster wheel
Hmm.
turning as you're explaining it.
All the time.
So continue.
Yes, it's truly just a cycle. Like you said, it is a
Mhm.
hamster wheel. Um, our generation is still put towards the same standards as prior generations. We're still told to meet these sort of milestones that is just simply not feasible at this time. I know back then, just a couple years ago, hearing somebody living with their parents when they're like 25 was probably outrageous. It's like, oh, you've been there too long. But now people are expected to stay with their parents until their 30s, mid 30s. That's what's expected just because of how bleak this economy is. And it's truly tough because if we think about it, I mean, actually think about it, this generation was put through a lifetime sort of pandemic. Like, you don't see this in many lifetimes. This pandemic that has passed has destroyed our economy. You have so many people kind of fleeing and scattering to pick up these jobs. Even educated people before the pandemic, they have a extreme gap in their work history. So now when you put yourself in this market, you're competing with so many people. The market is so condensed now, and there's just simply not a lot of jobs. At least that's what people are now realizing. You can go on Indeed, but back then, probably just like 5, 6, 7 years ago, when you hopped on Indeed, you could probably get a job the week of. But now there's so many fake jobs. There's jobs that don't exist that people are applying to and being rejected. You see people with education, I mean, like a bachelor degree plus, having to cycle through almost 100 plus jobs till they can find a successful interview. This job market is just as bleak as the dating scene. And and it's draining this generation. It's absolutely destroying this generation.
So with that being said, like you said, I asked you how you was feeling in the beginning. You said brilliant, right? So with the brilliant mind and the brilliance of energy that you radiate, coming from you, how do you, move forward in this kind of situation, right? Because I'm pretty sure it's pretty challenging.
Oh, most definitely. Everything's a compromise. Um, I would say the best course of action to keep a positive sort of outlook for this future, even though it's dim, is to understand that it has happened before. History repeats itself. We have been through it. These generations that judge us, they have also been through it. So
Mhm.
it's okay. We only live this life once and we don't have much control.
Yeah.
So be realistic to your views. Don't compare yourself to others. Like I said with the social media thing, social media has tanked so many people's perspectives for themselves. It has made this generation extremely insecure, just like the other generations before. And there's this sort of perspective, this view that, we're supposed to be here and here and here, just like everybody else. That's not true. We are made so differently. Our time is also different too. Be realistic. Make your own goals, but don't rush yourself. I know probably all your friends are getting married or they're taking vacations or they're retiring early. At the end of the day, do what you have to do in your timing. You're just human. So don't compare yourself to people's lives that really most of the time isn't real, especially on social media. Just be realistic with yourself, but also be optimistic with yourself because you have opportunities. And yes, some people, they're born a couple levels down, but that doesn't mean you can't be on top just like everyone else. Some people just got to work a lot harder towards it, but it makes the end goal so much more rewarding.
That was powerful. That was powerful, and I'm pretty sure very inspiring for the audience. Um, a hard truth that most won't admit is that even a generation before you are struggling, right? And trying to save face and trying to look like we have it together, right? For the generation behind us. You get what I'm saying? So that part is very real. Most adults, you're a young adult. Most adults live check to check, right? Um, and are codependent on someone else to have a fair and decent livelihood,
Yes.
right? And which is dealing with compromise because a lot of times people have to compromise with dealing with other people just to say, hey, I got a place to rest my head,
It happens
you
all
know. And these are the days and times that we're in. There's very few individuals who are legit, even if they're hard working,
the time.
that have their own place, a decent own place, a car, a nice bank account, right?
Yeah.
Could travel and things of that nature. This is stuff that's pushed in the media as attainable, right? And leaving people to strive to be able to do so. But what people aren't understanding is that that is entertainment. That is a lifestyle that's been orchestrated to keep us, you know, thriving or chasing this bag that seems to wither away once you get it,
Yeah.
right? Because your bills, become bigger. The more money you get, your taste becomes more expensive,
It's a
right?
rat race. It's a
Yeah,
rat.
yeah. Then you find yourself right back where you started, right? Trying to budget the best way possible just to get back and forth to work and take care of yourself. And if you have children, be able to do that. And in case your older children fall in a situation, to be able to look after them as well, right?
Yeah.
So you
No.
know, it's a lot of stress, in multiple generations, right? Most of the elders, older than me, um, have maintained their properties and investments because the cost, like you shared earlier, of living was
Hmm.
a lot cheaper. Um, and they made the proper choices, right? And then that's when you start talking about passing down generation to generation, when it comes to property, certain savings, or, being able to have certain life insurances that cover, the children. These are the things that I don't think we have enough discussions about,
Mm,
and it's pretty much safe to say that those are hard discussions to have,
really,
you
it is.
know, in these days and times, especially when your mind's so occupied on how am I going to make it to my next check,
Yes, yes, you're 100% right.
you know.
Mhm.
um and it's fair. These are our thoughts and opinions, right? I'm not saying this is a fact for everybody, but I do work in the field where I see multiple individuals have the same struggle.
Mhm.
And guess what? Not all of us are exempt neither. Right?
That's
So it's not me just pointing fingers. It's like, no, I gotta be mindful of my budgeting and how I go about spending money so I can ensure that certain responsibilities are taken care of in
true.
the household, right? And you never know when you get that phone call and somebody's like, "Hey, pops, I need this, I need that," right? You never know. So, you know, it's a mindset.
It is.
And you're the guest. This is on you. I just, you know, wanted to develop a conversation. So I'm gonna
Okay.
pass it back to you if you care to piggyback off of, you know, anything that I just said.
Yes, when you mentioned mindset, it has me thinking that also, like I said, with this current generation, there is a mindset and it can lead to a sort of parasitic lifestyle. And that has always demonstrated through just human history. But even now, if you think about it, the prior generations that we see, they retain their wealth, they had their properties, even though back then it was so much more cheaper and attainable to get these sort of things, get these opportunities. There was also a mindset back then, and the general mindset was to be able to be independent, be able to raise your family, be able to have a long lasting career and being future focused. But now it has changed dramatically. And now we have young adults, teenagers, our youth, our future, basically wanting to look better, appear better, have fast cars, be independent, have fast money. And that lifestyle is very susceptible and it usually affects vulnerable people. And you do lead yourself down to a parasitic sort of way of life. So I do dramatically see the difference. And like I said, yes, I think a big role in the down downward spiral that is this generation is a lot to do with money, but it has a lot to do with mentality and mental health that is extremely lacking. And I just think overall we're just seeing the repercussions of what internet does to us as a people in our generation right now.
Mm,
Mhm.
interesting. So, what do you think about the substance use and Generation Z at this moment?
Well, I do have to say, I'm so proud of my generation. We're really kicking cigarette use, nicotine in the ass. Like we're
Yeah.
doing a great job doing that. Um, but substances, I mean, that's sort of a humanity problem that has affected every generation to exist. And it has
Mm,
been very much normalized. It's a part of this new fast culture, this quick money, fast cars that corresponds with substance issues. And that's also a part of the mental health aspect. We're lacking mental health counseling. I think it's so important now, especially our youth. I think the sooner the better, um, to be able to communicate these issues. I think when it comes down to substance abuse,
Hmm.
A good defense is your best offense. Being able to talk to your younger sibling, um, a younger person, being able to connect and tell them that there's better, you have opportunity, and obviously substances is not the way.
Mm.
Being able to have that intervention is so important, and that's lacking because it's been normalized, in my opinion.
And I agree because I believe it has been normalized in many generations, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it seems like a non-stop um, series of events when it comes to that. We don't have enough advocates to talk against it, raise awareness, people enough people to get out in the field and say, hey, there's better options, and then show them what those options are, right? Because when you're dealing with substance use and mental health, it's about being accepted, right?
Exactly.
If somebody has mental health issues, it's like they isolate because they feel like, hey, people might not understand me,
Yes.
right? And the same with substance use, right? I'm using to feel good or self medicate a trauma or any of those scenarios, or just to go out and have fun and not know that this little bit of fun that I'm gonna have is gonna create a situation that I am gonna be reliant on
Yeah.
this substance in order to function,
Yeah.
through my day. And then say, hey, it's not that bad. At least I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, right? But a drug is a drug is a drug, right? And
That's
it's all mood and mind altering. And I I applaud you for speaking up the way that you did and sharing some solutions,
yeah.
which is, you know, big sister, big brother, talk to little brother, little sister,
Yeah.
and say, hey, there's other ways to go, or let's spend some time, let's find some hobbies, let's explore some things, if you're feeling a certain way, to pull somebody up and be like, hey, let's talk about what you're going through, right? Instead of just leaving them like that and not showing a care. I think we became cold as a people
Oh
when it
yeah.
comes to certain things.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
not speaking for all people, but I think the mindset is me,
Yeah.
right? um
Sorry, my
and
phone
and
off.
correct me if I'm wrong, because I see that amongst my generation, and many few people are willing to help, and those who that are willing to help, it's like we're on front line to get it from every direction, because we have to walk in a path that many aren't willing to walk in,
Mhm.
right? And we have to uphold this mannerism, right? Because it's like we need to be able to lead by example,
You're
right?
right.
And listen, we're human as well.
That's
We
true.
we all have flaws, we all have faults, and the moment you act out in a character defect or something like that, people are quick to point at you, like, yeah, look at what you've done, and it's like,
Yes.
yo, wow, my good ain't outweighing my bad. Do you find that happening in your generation?
Oh, all the time. All the time. I think people are very anxious. I think people have struggles with anxiety so much more.
Mm,
And oh, I'm sorry.
no
Um,
problem.
but if I believe that this generation is at a chokehold with mental illness. And I do believe anxiety plays a big role. I feel like we're more self centered more than ever. And that is a part of this mentality. The mentality is, I got to be better than the next person. And that's where we fail. I think as a human being, we have to exhibit more humbleness. I feel like humbleness has become extinct. And now
Mm,
we just have a bunch of young people with narcissistic mentalities. And that's dangerous as well. Just as dangerous as anxiety, stress is damaging. So that disconnect paired with social media also being a disconnect, we're not having human one-on-one emotions anymore. We're not having conversations anymore. We're so disconnected and desensitized as a people. We're almost evolving to be colder. And I see that in just normal day by day. Even if you look on the news, there's always another story about something even more horrific happening. That's a rampage. That's becoming the norm. People are desensitized to tragedy. And our society is fine with that because people are too self centered to reach out and remember that we're all in this together.
mm.
Mhm.
I agree. And on that note, I thank you for showing up tonight. I'm looking forward to having many more conversations about Gen Z and how we can find some solutions. Feel free to invite other people on the panel. Um, I think that would be great. And if you know anybody out there that's suffering from either substance use disorder or mental health, please reach out and let somebody know, right? Seek professional help. And on that note, be kind, travel in harmony, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.